Thanks, I hate it. Alvin and the Chipmunks are getting a reboot featuring them as digital-first influencers now. And they are actively hiring people with AI experience to work on the project. Yay! Last seen in 2015's Alvin and the Chipmunks The Road Chip, there's no surprise that they're trying to get back to that well, when you consider that this is a movie franchise worth $1.5 billion. If you're missing the era of YouTube where people sped up songs on Audacity and then uploaded it under Alvin's name, then this is the news for you. Although this being the 2020s, presumably we're going to be treated to an AI-run app that does the chipmunkanizing of the songs for you, despite being the easiest thing to do yourself on a computer ever. And from what we at least know from this initial announcement, AI is going to be involved in this project. Officially, AI has hit not just the movie industry, but a mainline large-scale IP as well. Other than, Maya the Bee. Now specifically, this movie is set to release in 2028, which will be 20 years since the original somehow. It is both the 20th anniversary of the movie and the 70th anniversary of the franchise overall, so it makes sense they're doing something. But why this? Also just surprising to hear that these guys go way back to 1958, back when novelty records were all the rage. In fact, actually, the exact same people, Ross Bagdasarian Jr. and Janice Carmen, have been running the franchise since the 1970s and voicing the characters. On the two of them, the producers of this new movie said, Ross and Janice have built one of the most enduring brands in family entertainment history, which, in some ways, feels like an overstatement, but also it's not entirely untrue, to be honest, This quote actually comes from the former Paramount CEO, Brian Hobbins. Wait, former? Why? Did something happen with Paramount? Did he not fancy sticking around for all of the David Ellison billions of Middle Eastern debt going on? Anyway, this guy didn't stick around for that whole dumpster fire and has instead started his own company called Big Shot, who are the ones actually producing this movie after acquiring a stake in the franchise. And considering they have a first look deal with Sony, presumably Sony will be the ones distributing it. An AI-infused movie. Not that that's necessarily below Sony. Having the Garfield movie considered, this will be the second time an old cartoon IP has jumped from 20th century over to Sony. Probably for the best that Disney doesn't produce movies of every character out there, though they could have had Chip and Dale cameo in this if they had. So this is the current context between Alvin's big screen return. Big Shot have even released a first image for the project, and Alvin doesn't look too different to how he did in the previous three movies. The Alvin and the Chipmunks trilogy, if you will. If I just read this story with no first look images at all, I would have just presumed a hard reboot. Maybe even going the way of what we've seen with Garfield and the Smurfs, who abandoned the live action hybrid stuff to instead rip off the Spider-Verse animation aesthetic to cover up a mediocre, fully animated version. But here, I still see Alvin with the same realism in his fur, as if to infer he's blending into live action. And even if they recast all the human actors, we may as well be in for a new installment in the same vein as the previous ones, which I can't say I'm a massive fan of, but I at least appreciate not pivoting the franchise to make it something it's not, other than AI. This is a franchise where annoying high-pitched rodents live like they're pop stars, and that's how it will stay. I'm imagining they will be recasting everyone, though. Jason Lee didn't even want to do the second movie, which is why Dave gets hospitalized at the start and we follow his nephew instead. So he's out, and David Cross has been pretty public about how the producers strong-held him in his contracts, to the extent he wasn't even able to take other projects because of the Chipmunks. So, can't see him coming back either. And even without all that baggage, there's also another feature of this reboot that'll put most people off, because there's a component that's going to need to change for the campaign for this one. And that campaign is going to be establishing Alvin, Simon, and Theodore as digital-first influencers. For those of you who thought I just meant, like, the plot of the movie, then think again. This is how they're planning to actually campaign towards the movie. Presumably across TikTok, Shorts, and Reels, the Chipmunks are going to be online influencers reacting to current events, trends, and pop culture in real time through short-form videos before a theatrical feature arrives in the second half of 2028. And I find it hilarious that this is the play. As far as the characters become influencers angle goes, this movie will very much be the last ones to the party. This movie is coming out 10 years after Ralph Breaks the Internet, which already covered the going viral character premise pretty thoroughly, if not roughly. Imagine making that dreadful movie look slightly competent in comparison. Imagine if Influencer Smurf had his own solo project and there was 3 of them, and I feel like we already have this movie. But those guys at least had the knowledge to delete Influencer Smurf from the main movie. Reacting to trends just feels like every time something authentically funny rises up through the internet, it's gonna be killed immediately the next day as soon as the Chipmunks touch it. You know, the new Ellen DeGeneres, I guess. Whilst also, normal movie marketing already does that. Garfield, again, made all sorts of pop culture references. It was just made with a physical artist in poster form. How far will Alvin go with it? Will we have the Chipmunks reacting to natural disasters and singing out thoughts and prayers? Alvin just looking sad on screen saying,
just sending my hearts out for all the people of blah 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 blah.
Get all the celebrities back in the COVID days to sing a voice Zoom together, and Alvin and the Chipmunks are there as well, not realizing that we were dogging on that moment. And if you're thinking maybe it's pretty ambitious to be creating reactionary trending content with all of these fully animated characters so quickly, then yeah, you'd be right. Because the final deepest pit about this announcement, the thing that really is gonna knock off the nostalgia goggles for these guys, is that apparently they're gonna be using AI for that content. Alvin and the Chipmunks are coming. Hey there! There you can make it to the halfway mark of this video. Come subscribe if you haven't already for more AI news. We pop up when it pops up. And then we'll sit and watch when the big pop happens and it all crashes down. Because yes, there's a whole lot more of a rabbit hole of the AI side of this project as well coming soon. But let's get back to the second half of Alvin and the Chipmunks. I couldn't find anything specifically about AI being used in the movie itself, but it's certainly going to play a role in the short-form influencer content. And if they got some animation team using Gen AI, then they're probably going to have all of their animation team somewhat adjacent to Gen AI. It might just be a background poster. Who knows? Brian Robbins said on the project, "We're thrilled to be partnering with the Baghdasarians to bring Alvin and the crew into the 21st century with the scale, creativity, and energy they deserve." I'm so tired of creativity being so heavily referenced in all of these AI projects, man. Also, they already came into the 20th century in a pretty big way, so what's he even talking about? To be fair, the 2020s does kind of feel like a whole new century somehow. And even beyond, like, the Garfield movie poster of all things, I feel we've already seen successful trend-pushing campaigns that have been achieved without AI. Like, one of the real stellar ones is how South Park can produce a full episode of television in 6 days. Can't you just have people create some serviceable reactionary content within 1 day and pay them really good for it? Maybe that's a bit of a logistical issue, but anything's better than this. The other question this leaves me with is, who exactly is the target audience here? Because every year, more countries are also banning kids from social media. I guess YouTube Kids will be the play here, but I feel like this will predominantly reach adults who just find it annoying. Obviously. And yes, there will be adults who grew up with the movies, and there are probably some superfans, but I just feel like Alvin and the Chipmunks, doesn't have the same staying power as, I don't know, Toy Story. I cannot imagine any nostalgic adult going back to Alvin and the Chipmunks 2 Chipwrecked to revisit a better time. Although I guess now they can, because the alternative is AI. Plus, when you compare them to the likes of like the live-action Scooby-Doo movies, the Chipmunks still pale in comparison. And I think we're now starting to see just what the benefit of sneaking adult humor into your movies really is. Because as well as the parents at the time of release enjoying it, you essentially create longevity for kids' relationship with the movies as they grow up too. And I just don't think that's something the Alvin movies provide. So when seeing these influencer slop videos show up on TikTok, they're just not gonna create that nostalgic buzz. They're just gonna be annoying. So from what I can see, their current strategy is going to be mainly requiring getting a new generation of kids on board, yet they're gonna target platforms where it will mainly reach adults. Like, don't you see the problem here? And the best case scenario is they are able to spam feed this unregulated AI slop to the generation that has no other experiences to call out and backlash against this whole thing. Or maybe if they do actually manage to do the impossible and make these videos funny, there is success to be had, but I just can't currently envision that or support it if AI is gonna be used to create it. And that's the general consensus, right? This may come off as a lot of big bad news, and like arguably it is. But we have seen time and time again a massive wave of AI backlash that just feels like that SpongeBob quote of, "How many times do we have to teach you this, old man?" You know this isn't gonna go down well. You know there's going to be a pop and businesses will find out that there's way more supply than there is demand for this stuff. You know where it's going, and all we can really do is point and laugh at the projects that are still choosing to do it, because you know it's not going to go in their favor. Everything just kind of ebbs and flows, and at the minute we're in a bit of an ebbing of AI stuff. But with how much everyone so obviously, routinely dislikes and rejects this stuff, hopefully you can take solace in the fact that it's going to flow again at some point, and this kind of stuff's, you know, gonna be attempted, and then bashed out, and then not attempted again. I think it's kind of obvious. That's my stance anyway. Because as it currently stands, any of this Gen AI shorts slop that they're planning to send out as a movie campaign is gonna have that same twang of inauthenticity and disconnect from the audience it's trying to connect with. Yet despite not being on the big screen since 2015, they have had more recent exposure that may just help them on getting kids on board, because up until recently, and no, I didn't actually know this either, apparently they've had a TV show that's ran for 8 years. Oh! Between 2015 and 2023, and yes, this is the actual title, Alvin and The Chipmunks ran on Nickelodeon, because of course it did. So they haven't been gone all of this time per se, even with a show title that is pretty much terrible for algorithms and SEOs. But hey, if the people running this actually knew what they were doing, they wouldn't be doing this, now would they? A title that deliberately spells the character's name wrong? Like, what were they thinking? Anyway, they came, they never really left, and now they're coming back to go viral, and Alvin Breaks the Internet is the only way for the late 2028s. What a stupid, ironic memory that we'll be thinking back on in the 2030s, I'm telling you now. Probably releasing Christmas time so they can march on that one song with the hula hoop once again, presumably with a major but money-hungry artist rapping for the final verse, you know how it is. But otherwise, you know exactly how this is going. It's a car crash in slow motion, but this time the car crash is pitched an octave or two higher. But what do you think? Is using AI going to heighten the online content creation, movie campaigning, and short-form content? Or do you think it's morally bankrupt to even consider it? And place your bets for when you think the penny's gonna drop on them. Turn around with something. For now, though, I'd best finally end it off there. My name's been Daz. Thank you very much for reaching the end of this video. Do tell us your thoughts on AI and the Chipmunks. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts and more, but otherwise, I shall see you all in a little bit. Cheerio!